Hey, Billy, you know what's awesome?
What's that?
MTV, baby!
Oh, yeah! All right. Dude, MTV was awesome. I don't know. Our show's not called what was awesome. It's what is awesome. So where are you at with MTV these days?
There is no MTV these days. I mean, only in name alone. I mean, it's funny that... How did it happen, right? I mean, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's do a TV channel that's nothing but music.
Around the clock, the music never stops. MTV Music Television.
But then in 10 years or so, there's not going to be any music. This is going to be reality TV shows. So why didn't they just change the name of it?
Dude, I'm right there with you because I never cared about the shows. I mean, it did have some shows that were good, but they were shows that you watched because you were watching the channel, and you were like, oh, okay, well, Beavis and Butthead is on, or even before that, the Liquid TV was on.
Right.
It wasn't that you turned on the channel to watch shows, and then hope that maybe one day you'd see a video, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, and I guess you hear a lot of them say it kind of goes back to Remote Control, which is the game show they had on there. And, you know, I guess it was just something different at the time, but to me, even when that came out, I knew something was wrong.
I'm right there with you. That's my thoughts for the intro of the show here was not really even what went wrong with MTV. The question, the answer is this whole whatever Tiger Guy thing, the Tiger King thing that's on Netflix right now. That we're
really,
all
you're sounding like an old guy. That old Tiger thing on that there Netflix.
we I don't care, dude. We're in a quarantine lockdown because of a global pandemic. People are dying. People are stuck at home with their families that they probably, I had a conference call with my boss's boss the other day. He's like, I ain't been home this long in 15 years. He's been home for 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, dude, really? He's like, my family doesn't even know me, and I can't wait to get back on the road. I'm like, that's tragic.
Oh,
that
man.
is the worst. That is the saddest thing I've heard ever, right? But in all of this horrible crap that we got going on, you could learn a new hobby. You're like, I want to start a podcast. I want to play the guitar. I want to learn I want to read a novel. Whatever you want to do, you have the time because it's kind of forced on you. Everybody's sitting on their ass watching a whole bunch of idiots be idiots and losers. And that's what MTV turned into 15 years ago.
It was the start of it. The real world is kind of the predecessor to everything that's on TV now.
Yeah. Which, I mean, was groundbreaking then. I guess apparently it's continually groundbreaking. But I remember when it was just music. Yeah. It's like you heard a song on the radio and you went home. You got on your BMX bike and you rode home and you turned on MTV and you watched it then for hours. Because you knew that if you heard it on the radio, that band had a video, and eventually you'd get to see what they looked like.
Right.
And you'd know if they were cool or not. Right?
So all of you young'uns that are listening, coming out of the 70s, unless your favorite band was on, the Midnight Special or some TV show like that, you never saw bands play on TV at all. Mm-hmm. So all you would do is pick up magazines, and I always use this example because it's Kiss, but you would just stare at these pictures of Kiss, and you would just imagine. It's kind of like picking up the Destroyer album, and you look at that cover, and you're imagining hearing Detroit Rock City, and imagine them playing God of Thunder or whatever on this mountaintop that they're standing on, and that that built the mystique more than anything else, because you couldn't go and you weren't lucky enough to just go see them or see them on TV like you do now. MTV changed music forever, and it's rightfully so that Video Killed the Radio Star was the first thing they played, because it pretty much was the nail in the coffin of all your bands like Foghat and all these bands that were not a visual band. If you didn't have something visual to sell, you were kind of done at that point.
Yeah.
And
or
so
you had to, or you just had to be transcendent, like Rush, maybe, because none of those guys were pretty, but they were just so damn good that you just. I mean, and I'm not even really a big fan of Rush, but I just can't like.
Yeah,
my
you weren't going
buddy
to see them on American Bandstand, you know.
Like, my buddy's a huge Rush fan, and I've never been, but he's like, listen to this. I'm like, dude, I cannot deny that is an amazing song. I just don't want to listen to it very much. I'm not a fan.
Hey, believe it or not, I mean, I'm sitting behind a set of drums as we speak, but I'm the same way. I mean, I can handle a few tunes, but it's not going to be, hey, I'm going to listen to the first 5 Rush albums in a row. And it's not the musicianship. It's probably just I really get tired of Geddy's voice.
For me, it's kind of the length of the songs, and it's like, okay, here's a really good idea that would have fit really well into a 4-minute song, but at 14 minutes, 59 seconds, you're like, okay, we're about halfway through, and I'm done.
This is the interlude, right? We're going to build it back up. So, yeah, I get it. I mean, and MTV was not a place for that either, man.
Nope.
It was what was the up and coming hits. I mean, this thing, it was getting to where MTV was dictating what you were going to hear on the radio.
Of course. Well, that's what I mean.
Was amazing.
Because if you heard a band, then you immediately wanted to go watch the video to see what it was about. And our perspectives are just a few years apart. But you know, like even when I was a kid, it's like the you'd hear a song, whether it was on somebody else's tape or on the radio. You went to MTV to listen to it, to see what the band looked like, and sometimes the video would be a live video of them playing out, so you knew what they looked like whenever they played live. It would be a studio version of the song, but a live version of them out, you know, kind of cut in, and you're like, okay, that's awesome. Other times it would just be weird artistic stuff that you had no idea, with every now and then a picture of the band, and you're like, okay, well, I think that one guy, I think he might have been the guitar player. And later on you find out he's the drummer, or he wasn't even in the band. He was just some guy that they videoed because they had videotape. Because that was another thing, is often these bands would get offered to go in and film a video, and they had no idea. Like, they wrote a song 2 years ago, and it's on their album. Like, people like Gary Newman, or
right.
Hey, you got a song called Cars. It's about being stuck in traffic. What do you want to do? And he's like, let's just have a close-up on my face for like 4 minutes.
I'm going to stand in a neon triangle, and you're just going to shoot me singing it. All right.
Yeah. And so that actually gave a meaning and depth to songs that was neither intended by writing or recording the song, but also not intended by the band at all. You know, it's like, it was always frustrated the hell out of me whenever I'd read Rolling Stone articles or Spin, or like read articles about bands. I'd be like, so this article that, like, the song that seems like the lyrics are about war, with a video about you in an army uniform getting killed at the end, what does that mean? And they're like, I have no idea. I never wrote that song with any kind of intention in mind. And you're like, but you kinda did.
The song's called "I Died in War," so I mean, yeah. Well, and the thing is for me, I was the MTV generation. At a whopping 11 years old is when MTV first started. So the journey for me was growing up with my dad being a musician, So I was exposed to classic country, of course, of the '70s, and all that stuff. But then also he was a big '70s pop fan. So Seals and Croft, Jim Croce. I mean, so I grew up hearing this kind of music. John Denver.
This was my dad. This was my house growing up.
Yeah, and then my mom was a big Carpenters fan. So, I was getting this information, and then lo and behold, they bought me a Kiss record. So the rest of my life, and my dad still to this day says, that's where I screwed up. I had you going on the right path, and I bought you that dang Kiss record. Ruined everything. But for me as a kid, there was Elvis, there was Kiss, and then by the time 78, 79 rolled around, there was the roller rink. So that's really where I started hearing songs. But before that, it was going to the babysitter's house, and she was in her teens, and she would have these records. So that's how I discovered ABBA and all these things, was through them, Alice Cooper. So the cool teenagers that I hung out with. But then, like I said, the roller rink is where you started hearing The Stroke, Billy Squier, Don't Try Suicide by Queen. And so these became the songs I searched for. And then I lived in a little town called Bradford in 1980. And going into 81, well, sneaking halfway through the year of 81 is when you found out that MTV was coming out. And a buddy of mine had cable. Cable was a new thing.
I want my MTV,
and I actually went to his house and we watched the inauguration of MTV, and we were just floored that, even the commercials were music related to a certain extent. It's like, wow, it's such a game changer. The only other time you saw videos besides that I can think of, well, I guess MTV was already still going, but HBO, in between movies, if they had a little gap there, they'd show videos. That's how I discovered The Police, because I saw The Police first on HBO in between movies. And but yeah, man, MTV, it just, they really captured that age group at the time, because it's art imitating life, or life imitating art, whichever you want to go with. But I think about the videos that were the impact of my high school years, and you wanted that larger than life thing. You wanted Smoking in the Boys' Room by Motley Crue, and being pulled through the mirror, and school is this diatribe place where they're just people making kids machines, and very much The Wall, if you want to say that, Pink Floyd, The Wall, where they're just running through the meat grinder and making everybody, breaking them down, and so that's the way it was portrayed, and it really played into that teenage angst, and you wanted your heroes to be larger than life. And I think that's something people miss with the hair and the makeup and all that stuff. It was larger than life. It was to take your mind off of the drab of every day, because on news every day, we're about to get killed by the Russians with a nuclear war. Or
AIDS, which is a disease.
Or AIDS. And, so it's very similar to the way I think people are feeling now. And I really think that escapism with the music and the over-the-top productions and all that stuff was such a relief that it made you able to deal with things.
I totally agree from multiple stances of what you just said, because I was a little kid, and I don't know if we've ever talked about Red Dawn before on one of our shows. But I was a very small child. I was like 9 years old whenever Red Dawn came out, and the opening scene of Red Dawn, they shoot up a school.
Yeah,
it's like. Yeah. They just blast all these kids straight to hell, and everybody runs off into the mountains, and it's terrifying. And We can talk about Red Dawn for hours because it's awesome.
we'll have to hold that one for sure because that's one we definitely got to talk about.
Like these things were scenes that you saw in movies, and it was on TV, and every day they were talking about Russians, and they were talking about disease, and they were talking like even us. We have rose-colored glasses about the '80s because the '80s was awesome, but. Man,
there was a lot going on, man.
We were watching MTV. We were watching Motley Crue shake their ass, and Poison shake their ass, and anybody else shake their ass. And our parents were sitting there being like, "These damn kids have no idea what's going on." And being a grown up, like through this whole coronavirus thing, like 4 days ago, I don't know, 10 days ago, I don't know. I had this conversation with my wife. I was like, dude, these are the conversations. Like, I grew up in this kind of pop culture world where all of this bad crap can happen.
Yeah.
I never really thought that in reality that I would be a father of children, leading them through a pandemic, apocalypse sort of weird situation. Now, it has not progressed to the point where I'm walking around in a gas mask. I mean, I'm not putting it that, but you have those moments of like, oh my God, like where? Well, like you said in one of our shows before, well, that's why you have Poison.
Yeah.
Because they can sit there and just be like, dun, 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 dun. And you're like, okay, well, that's cool. Let's go listen to that. Let's drive around, listen to that. Like it's a good time. And then they got the big hair, they got the big sound, they got a bunch of leather and stupidity that you can really relate to because it's not all the apocalyptic stuff that you've been paying attention to all day. Yeah, that's a pretty good song actually.
Well, and of course that's the hair metal kind of era, but even if you step back to 82, 83, all the stuff that was coming out then. You start getting into your Duran Duran.
That's a new wave.
All your new wave stuff.
That new wave, I know that makes me sound like an old fart again. Oh, that's that new wave stuff.
That's an old new wave.
That's the new
Flock
wave
of seagulls.
Dude. No, don't let me fool you by my stuttering over my own tongue. That's where I came from. That's my love.
Oh, yeah. Me too, man. And so you had Solid Gold that was out there, right? Remember Solid Gold?
Oh yeah.
So that was the other show where you kind of got to see some of these people. But MTV was really that catalyst that everything kind of sprouted from at that point. So again, you can't even make it make sense. It's almost like the impact of Facebook to society. It was really that big, or pick your favorite social media app. That's really the impact MTV had on our generation. It was us getting our own thing, and it related to us. Parents wasn't supposed to get it, much like the stuff now. And, it made you change your clothing style. You were actually seeing how the other half lives, right? You unless you saw it in a movie, you didn't know what the fashions were elsewhere in the United States or even abroad. I mean, you didn't know. So
in California, it was sunny and skateboardy. In New York, it was gray and kind of angry. Like you that's just how it was. And you're like, okay, well, I guess if all things being equal, I'd rather go to California because I'm not in the mood to fight people between buildings. Right. And that might sound cynical, but
that's the reason you had the Ramones from New York, and then you had Van Halen from California.
Exactly.
And it really showed you those contrasts, and you never really had anything pointing that stuff out. And just the iconic videos, man. I mean, you think early days, I think of, Blinded Me with Science, Thomas Dolby, that crazy video. Come on, man. Greg Kihn Band, Jeopardy. Remember that? That video scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Dude.
Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell.
Oh, Rockwell, yeah.
Rockwell,
Not Billy Ocean was the...
Caribbean Queen and Loverboy. I want to be your lover. Mm.
I
actually heard that song today.
I remember being a kid in my grandparents' house, and they had cable, and we were watching. I don't know why, because my parents were. This is one of those funny kind of generational gaps for you. So in '81, my parents would have been in their early 30s. Like my mom in her late 20s, my dad in his early 30s, and Boy George came on, and I remember they were like, "Oh my God, what is this?" I remember being 6 years old, being like, "Well, that dude looks pretty scary." Like he's got the white face and the makeup, and like, and then grew up, and obviously the Cure was my favorite band. So you know, what you gonna do with that? But
yeah. Well, and definitely an influence. I mean, there's no denying the impact that Culture Club had, and still, you listen to the stuff, you go, you know what, Boy George could sing. There's no denying it. Great singer.
I've been in funny arguments with people about George Michael because I really don't care. George Michael is amazing.
He's Freddie Mercury. He's the closest thing to Freddie Mercury we've had.
Mm-hmm.
I know people don't understand that, but if you go back and listen. There's in just about every George Michael song, you can hear where he's pulled from Freddie some of the same ideas, and he can sing it. I've never understood why Queen never got with George Michael and did the Queen stuff with George Michael, because he could sing it all.
I mean, I don't either. I remember being a kid and George Michael, well, Wham first, and then George Michael after he broke off from him. Because again, being a kid, you don't know the band politics. You don't know nothing. I remember because we're talking MTV. I remember George Harrison. Mm-hmm. Like this was like around like 87, 88.
Yep.
Released a single.
I got my mind set on you. That video. Yep.
And I remember being like, this video is awesome. And my
it's like Evil Dead 2.
my dad being like, you realize who he is, right?
Right, yeah.
No. He's like, he's a guitar player for the Beatles. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, but where are they?
Yeah.
Because he's in a video and they're not. Yep. So this guy's cooler than
I was all about Paul McCartney, so I mean, because Paul had his hits there in the '80s with Michael Jackson and all those things that were coming out. So he was very relevant in the early or mid '80s there. I latched on to Paul, and even going back and listening to the Beatles, that's still who I kind of relate to as far as the songwriting and stuff.
Of course, well, with the Beatles,
but yeah, that video for the George Harrison. I mean, you can't say that song and not think of the video.
And the video, like you said, it is very much Evil Dead 2 without the blood and the demons, but it's
the book singing, the squirrel playing the saxophone, but it's really a pipe, and you know, it's amazing how there's so many songs that instantly you see the video. I mean,
exactly.
You can't hear Wild Boys by Duran Duran and not see that crazy video in your head. You know, it's amazing. Sledgehammer. Peter Gabriel.
I was gonna say Peter Gabriel, Genesis. Like there's a the I'm gonna sound old again, but Disturbed, who had the hit recently with Sounds of Silence, which is a cover of a '60s song, but they did a cover of the Genesis song, Land of Confusion, and they metaled it up. But good. Still, it's like dun 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 dun, and you still see those masked puppets, like the Reagan puppets floating around,
right?
Like because visually, that was again those sorts of things with MTV where you just sat there with eyes wide open, and it didn't matter the genre of music. I mean, like MTV was mostly rock and roll, and whenever it got to soft rock, they eventually went to VH1, but there was so much good stuff, and if it sucked, you just went and got a snack, because by the time you got back, it was still pretty good.
Yeah,
and
unless they did that crazy, they got crazy there about 85, 86 when Madonna came out with True Blue, the song, and they showed they had a contest where you would mail in, you would make your own video to go to the song, and they were going to play, and they played like the top 100 videos to that song. So you got to hear True Blue for 100 times straight.
Yeah.
And I was like, no thanks. That's when it started becoming a stretch for certain things.
So as a weird aside, but you're familiar with the band Gunship, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you familiar with our friends Sirenicide, who do the horror podcast here in Houston?
I don't guess I am.
Okay, so Sirenicide is a drama podcast. Like, they do scary stories, but they do it.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about it. Yeah.
So Gunship did a similar sort of thing. Like, okay, we have this song we're gonna make a video for. So here's the advanced audio. Find a spot and just make a video. And Johnny and his family did a couple of different clips, and both of them got accepted and published.
Awesome.
Like, they had again, it wasn't Madonna style, but it was like multiple thousands of entries, and they were both in. Like, one's kind of at the beginning and one's at the end. It was really cool. It's like
awesome.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah.
They'd be like, we have a contest. You'd watch it and be like, well, everybody across the country is also entering, but hey, maybe if I look under my Pepsi can, maybe I can win too. And sometimes he did.
Again, it's just a miraculous time, because look how it even breathed life into artists that probably would have been just left behind. ZZ Top. I mean, they came out and they started spinning the guitars and stuff. Next thing you know, they were on MTV nonstop. And you really think, what's the possibility of them surviving?
Yeah.
Versus all the other bands that came out at that time point, It's pretty amazing.
ZZ Top's from Houston.
Yeah.
My dad was friends with Billy Gibbons. It's but
by the way, Billy Gibbons, one of the best guitar players ever.
Ever. Amazing. Ever. My dad used to be like, I knew that guy when I was in high school. I'm like, okay, and then watched a video on MTV, and being like, wow, this guy is insane.
It's absolutely amazing that they come in where they came from with that blues-based rock and roll. I mean, look how many bands that were doing the exact same thing coming through the 70s, and by the time MTV hit, they don't even exist anymore.
3 guys.
Yeah.
With long beards, and one guy without a beard whose last name is Beard. Like,
right. But, they started using some sequencing and some electronic drums and started doing some pretty crazy videos, man. I think about Rough Boy and all these where they'd have them. And you weren't going to get much motion out of them. They're going to do the little syncopated moves they do together.
Yeah.
That was kind of the extent of it, but it was cool, man. I mean, you couldn't help but go, these guys are cool.
They're badass. And actually,
yeah.
A little funny story about ZZ Top. So there's a road that I bought my first house on, and there's a street called Brittmore. On one side of the street, on one side of the freeway, it feeds into extremely affluent suburbs. On the other side of the freeway, it feeds into industrial parks and apparently ZZ Top's recording studio. But like back in high school, we'd hear rumors like, "Oh man, ZZ Top records back here," and it's like under the trees on acreages. Like, they had all these, and I actually bought a house back here. Like, they torn all it down back now. I don't live too far from where I grew up, but not too far from where I grew up, ZZ Top recorded all their records.
Wow. And
you used to be able to come back here and see ZZ Top hot rods parked and like off in the distance. And like, my little girl went to school at a Montessori that was 2 properties over from what they used to own. I mean,
that's cool.
Love ZZ Top. I can't not love ZZ Top because of that, because they're local. But
right, yeah. Well, and the other thing too is, we're talking about those videos. What about the video for Herbie Hancock for Rocket? I mean, how can you even describe that to somebody, right? It's that is nightmarish. Even now, when you look at it, you're like, this is, even at my age now, it's making me uncomfortable because somebody put all this stuff together.
Well, like I said before, I think sometimes bands showed up and they're like, well, we've got a song and it's about a girl and a boy and a tree. And the videographer was like, okay, so let's get a gas tank and a stuntman and a cannon. And we'll film it in negative.
Yep, you're exactly right. I mean, that's what was so great. It was so open and creative at the time. It didn't have to make sense, really. You just had to do something that made it memorable. So if I can find it, this is something I'm going to try to post on our page because you never realize just how nuts this video is. But it's the video for The Safety Dance by Men Without Hats.
That is, dude.
You want to talk about cocaine-induced crazy filmmaking, because when the lead singer comes out and he's singing, you're like, okay, this dude's a little weird, but he's totally normal compared to the jester and the crazy woman that comes out that's all coked up.
It gets worse and worse, and then you expect the Spinal Tap. Little dude. You expect
it's the weirdest stuff, man. And here we are talking about it all these years later because it made it memorable. You know, the Twisted Sister videos, their whole twist was the Wile E. Coyote Animal House thing, right? Dude. So all the puns were, Niedermeyer, getting, blown up or all those things,
The best thing, again, like from MTV and everything else, and we talked about it on shows past, was the Satanic Panic, and then you watch the end of Pee-wee's Big Adventure when Twisted Sister is filming the video.
Yeah, you're gonna burn in hell. Yeah,
you're gonna burn in hell, and he's sitting on the front of the car and he's just pantomiming because the song's going, and then Pee-wee runs out in front of him and gets knocked over, and you're like. Hey, we gotta save Pee-wee's a Big Adventure, man. We got to do a show about it, man. Oh, of course, dude. But
again, it just shows you how the music was integrated into everything because of MTV. Twisted Sister success is because of MTV, and
big time.
D. Snyder would even tell you that. I mean, they were trying before and couldn't break through, but those videos.
Well, dude, look at Rob Zombie. I mean, move into the 90s.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, he tried to deny it. But Rob Zombie's white Zombie only had a career for another 8 months because of Beavis and Butthead.
Right.
Which just came from MTV, which
Absolutely.
was off of Liquid Television.
Yep.
But there's, Rob Zombie... White Zombie specifically, right? I'm not a huge fan of Rob Zombie films. I am a massive fan of Rob Zombie music. Again,
yep, I'm a fan too.
That dude would have been sidelined hard, in 1992, if it were 1993, if it wasn't for Beavis and Butthead, because of MTV. Mike Judge.
Well, look at the bands that it crushed too.
Oh, dude.
I mean, Winger was done.
Oh.
After Beavis and Butthead,
Winger was done. The funny thing is, I don't remember the name of the band. I probably should have looked it up, but I remember because Beavis and Butthead used to even make fun of bands that got famous because they made fun of them. Like, look at this guy with his little shorts. But one time, Beavis was watching something, or Butthead was watching something. And Beavis comes out and he's like, hey, what are you watching? And Butthead's like, nothing. And they just changed the channel. But they had to give credit to the band because it was on their show. And I was just like, oh, crap. This is the worst diss you can possibly get.
Yeah, they won't make fun of you or say you're cool. You're nothing.
Just bump.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Then Mike Judge with King of the Hill.
Yep.
Got to tell you the quick King of the Hill story because it's got a lot to do with MTV. But so my good friend in high school, one of my best friends in the world, who's probably listening to this show right now. So his dad owned an apartment up the road where we could go, and he would drop a case of beer in the fridge and be like, hey, watch my house for the weekend because I got to go on a sales trip. So he had full-on cable and a case of beer and 2 high school kids with nothing better to do, so we were Beavis and Butthead incarnate, right? So we'd go to his house, and we'd drink his beer, and we'd watch TV and stuff. Well, then he has a Super Bowl party. And all these people come over to the Super Bowl party, and we're sitting there watching the game, and the game goes to commercial, and all of a sudden it pauses and turns into porn. And everybody in the room is just shocked. We're like, what is... Like, you remember John Bobbitt? The guy with the...
Oh, yeah.
The severed thingy?
Yep.
That got it sewed back on and became a porn star?
Yeah.
Chris's dad decided that it was a good time to show that video at that specific halftime show. It's like, oh, look, it's sewed on sideways. And so we all sat there and watched like 14 seconds of inappropriateness with a laughing drunk guy in the background. Right after that game was the premiere of King of the Hill, the first episode. I remember the first episode of King of the Hill preceded by a really, really, really angry girlfriend and a whole bunch of shocked party goers.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, man.
The power of MTV, man.
Power of MTV. Well, and to me, especially with my age group, I can't have this show end without talking about Headbangers Ball.
No.
I mean, Headbangers Ball was it for me.
All day, all night. Dude.
Yeah.
I
That's where I saw all my heroes, man.
Well, MTV, like, there's a reason why I'm so, like, Slash is one of my favorite people ever.
Sure. Yeah.
Slash could be a complete dick, but
Yeah.
he looks really cool in sunglasses, a cigarette, and a top hat. Like,
Yeah.
he's
And again, that's MTV. That's the power of MTV. If you didn't have those videos from Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child of Mine, would they have survived coming out of the 70s? I mean, I know the music was one thing; it was raw, but there was a lot of bands that still had that kind of formula. Nazareth, all these bands that kind of had that kind of sound. But it's that image those guys had that really drove it home. It was that perfect marriage of this is the right image for this style of music, and they were going against the grain too because everybody else is more glammy. So they were really the start of the decline of getting rid of the glammy stuff and becoming more hard-nosed rock and roll. And all other bands started following suit. They started following after Guns N' Roses doing that. You're right.
I think Guns N' Roses is a high watermark in glam rock, and then also the decline of it as well. I don't know that necessarily... I mean, I think eventually there would have been somebody... But like we were talking about, like Winger Warrant, like a bunch of bands that were kind of floating on the... They were riding the coattails of earlier bands who were probably better than them.
Yeah.
Which, you could sit down and probably lay out a whole bunch of... Like, was Bon Jovi as good? Well, Bon Jovi is pretty damn good. They wrote good songs. They were entertaining players. They made good videos. Was Winger as good? Maybe not. I don't know. We could discuss it. We could put them over there. When Nirvana hit, Nirvana built a giant wall that only a few of those bands could come over, regardless of whether they were good, whether they just looked good, whether and Guns N' Roses kind of fell to the other side because they hit kind of around the same time.
Yeah. Well, Guns N' Roses kind of became their own thing too, which I have a problem with, because I am all about Appetite for Destruction. I'm even all about some Lies. I really liked it too. everything past that, I kind of took a check on, man. I was like, it's almost like they became too big for the britches, and it watered them down somehow.
After,
yeah, you had your Use Your Illusions and all that, and I know there's still some good tunes on there, but
there's good
to me,
songs, but they're not great albums. They're not.
They're not Appetite for Destruction.
Well, we started the show by talking about Rush. Rush has several. They have great songs, but they also have albums that they sat there and put together as a band and said that from beginning to end, this is a Rush album.
Yeah.
With Guns N' Roses, if you read Slash's biography, because I'm a nerd and I read, he's like, no, Axl wrote most of that, and we just came in studio musician style and played it. Gibby Haynes, who's the replacement guitar player for Izzy, was like, I thought I was joining the biggest heavy metal band in the world, and it turned out I was sitting there playing a whole bunch of, just basically crap.
Right. And the drummer that they got, the replacement drummer,
Matt Sorum.
Matt Sorum. Matt Sorum is the death kiss of any band. Every band he gets in, it's over. He killed my Cult band. I was a big Cult fan, and Electric is just one of the most amazing albums ever. People, if you're listening, if you've never heard Electric by the Cult, go get that mug right now. Because you talk about how Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction was a punch in the gut. Man, the Cult did it first. But then they did the Sonic Temple album, which is a lot more polished, and they bring in Matt Sorum, and then it breaks up the band. Mm-hmm. And then you put Matt Sorum in Guns N' Roses, and it breaks up the band. I mean, it's like everything he got in, and he's a good drummer. But if he's in the band, it's pretty much like it's the end. It's like Joe Walsh getting in the Eagles. Hey, I'm just here to try to hold it together.
Well, that's all. That's what he did though, because Joe Walsh is. I'm not a fan of the Eagles. I do like Joe Walsh.
I'm the same way. I'm exactly the same way. Because I've always thought Joe was
solo stuff, and I'll listen to his stuff with the Eagles and be like, In
the eyes of the confessor, you can't tell a lie. I mean, good stuff, man.
When it comes to MTV though, like for me, like I remember being in the 7th grade. I don't remember which grade I was in. I think I was in 7th grade, and I remember this girl sitting there next to me, and I was drawing. I had an art class project that I was doing, and so I was sketching whatever the project was, and she was like, hey, you can draw pretty good. I was like, thanks. She goes, can you draw this? And she handed me the tape of Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
With the bullet and the two guns and the roses and everything, and I was like I'd never seen the picture before, so I was like, okay, maybe. But it was a tape, so I was like, okay, what is this? She's like, you have not heard this before? I was like, I have not heard this before. She's like, oh my God, you need to go home and listen to this. Yep. And so I actually had heard Sweet Child of Mine. I'd actually heard Appetite for Destruction, but I didn't, like, when I put the tape on, I was familiar with the song. Sure. I'd seen the video on MTV, and I was like, okay, yeah, I know this song. But I just left it in my player playing while I was trying to sketch the cover of the album. Yeah. And then Sweet Child of Mine came on, and I was stepped aside and was like, okay, this is a thing. And then the next day, that was the breaking news. It's like Guns N' Roses just released this, boom, boom, boom. It was just like this 4 or 5 punch. And I watched this video, and if you remember at the beginning of the video, they probably haven't showed this in 25 years. At the beginning of the video, it just shows the band setting up to play. And it's got a ground on Slash's guitar. Mm-hmm. He's got a plug. And it's all.
Yep. He's going to plug in his guitar.
He plugs in his guitar and he starts
Yep.
kicking that lick. Dude, I was over. Like, honestly, you remember when you were talking about ninjas, and remember the old punch in the nose, and if you break the nose just right, it'll go up into your brain and kill you?
Right. Yeah.
That was mine. Done. I just fell over. I've been completely fallen over ever since. Every time I hear the beginning of Sweet Child of Mine, done. Like, learned it on acoustic, learned it on electric, played it 1,000 times. But
I was always a completist. I always looked at albums as a time capsule of songs together.
Of course.
And that's what impressed me so much with that album was there's not a bad song on that record, man.
Not at all.
I mean, Night Train, Mr. Brownstone. I mean, these songs are just killer songs. At
one point or another, I've known how to play them all in order. Like, that's...
Wow. Yeah.
Dude. Like, I'm that kind of fan. And,
we can say that for an episode, too. We'll go through every track.
But, and then you got other bands that just had wonderful songs that had shitty videos.
Sure.
Sure. I'm thinking, again, one of my favorite bands ever was The Cure, where it's like they're like they've got a wonderful song, but their video is them playing the song with a little ripple effect on the video. Where it's like it's not quite live and it's not quite themed, but hey, guys, good job.
And it would be on 120 minutes, where you could check right after REM,
And yet they still made it. I bet.
I have to. Well, they were different enough, man. I mean, that's the thing is, at that time, you knew who The Cure was, man. I mean, they played them a lot, and again, it's amazing how many bands, especially bands in the alternative world, would have not had the career that they had if it wasn't for the video airplay, because some of those songs just became classics just because they were on MTV so much.
Of course. That's
close to you video always just sticks in my mind. With The Cure and they're falling off in the cabinet or whatever it is into the water.
Well,
classic.
There's what is it? I posted it the other day. It's is it Pictures of You? Yeah, Pictures of You. Perhaps the best known Cure song ever. Like, they've got a couple others before, but Pictures of You, like Disintegration, is arguably their best record, and Pictures of You is arguably the biggest song off that record. And it's them standing around looking bored, recording a video in the snow. Like, that's the video.
Right.
And record companies accepted that. Like,
but that was kind of what they were putting forward, too, because it was the beginning of the goth. They weren't going to be all happy and jump around and rock out. It was morbid,
As a record company executive, I would have been like, they could have at least been playing the song. Like, they could have at least been pantomiming playing the song. Like, of course we put them in the snow, but they have to stand around, like, talking to each other as the song plays.
That might have been their thing of, hey, videos are ridiculous, so we're rebelling by letting you know that videos aren't real. That's one of those statements from back then, because it goes all the way back to Syd Barrett being strung out on acid on TV when Pink Floyd was supposed to perform, and he was so stoned he couldn't even open his mouth. So he just stood there and looked at the screen the whole time, So people thought it meant something else. Nope, he was just that stoned.
Yep.
And we can't forget, we're jumping over our favorite stuff, but again, the impact that MTV just had on pop culture, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna. Come on, the Prince videos, When Doves Cry, all these videos, him coming out of that bathtub. You still hear girls talk about when he stands up in the tub and, Michael Jackson, man. The first time you saw Thriller, were you not floored?
Dude,
of course you were.
Of course I was. There was so much good stuff. Like I said, the whole idea is you're a musician. Maybe you're not a pretty one, but you are one of them. And then they say, come make a video. And then sometimes you've got movie studio production, especially like kind of in the decline of MTV, which what we would consider the decline of MTV is in the 90s, where they have like video producers becoming movie makers.
Right.
You know, it's like a band just shows up one day and they're like, hey, we've got a song. They're like, okay, awesome. Now you're working with Steven Spielberg somehow. And you're like, what? Like, okay.
And that's weird, too, because you kind of had two different things happening there. You had, Tobe Hooper directed the video for Dancing with Myself for Billy Idol. So you kind of had big league guys jumping into the game. And then, of course, John Landis being involved with Michael Jackson. And then, like you said, then it started getting to where people that were the up-and-coming video makers became legit filmmakers out of all this.
Exactly.
So it's a weird crossroads there of what happened just in pop in general. I mean, it was affecting everything.
Because especially, I'm not exactly sure where MTV fell off music completely. I think it was in the late 90s, maybe?
Yeah, getting into 2000 or so, somewhere around in there.
But, I mean, MTV News, they used to announce songs coming out and be like,
oh yeah,
remember that little Megadeth lick, the dun 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 dun. And it'd be like, breaking news, Green Day releases a new video, and you're like, that's not news. And it'd be like, okay, here's a Green Day video. But dude, they used to take music that seriously. Like it was that serious. You're like, you're sitting there just on your bed watching TV, and all of a sudden it's like breaking news. Like, bombs are falling, right? No, Green Day just had a new video.
Nope, Green Day just made a new record.
Going back into the 80s, but that's all we watched. That's all that mattered.
Yep.
That's all that mattered was what was on
if
MTV.
If you didn't have MTV, you had Friday night videos that came on.
You know,
or USA Up All Night or Night Flight. Those were great shows, too.
You talked about Headbangers Ball. Dude,
oh, yeah.
I was so into Headbangers Ball. Ricky Rackman was a man.
You better believe it.
And you sit there and, like, Headbangers Ball was the only one, and you realize now that MTV is so corporate that obviously there was corporate that just ran all the way down to the minute, all the way back up.
Oh,
yeah. But Headbangers Ball was the only one that had balls to play Metallica. We talked about Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
But, man, Guns N' Roses was milquetoast compared to Metallica, because Metallica would come out there and hit you straight in the face with a guitar. You're like, dun, 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 and you're like,
yeah.
I mean, like,
that
just blow your
change.
face off.
Right. And just the fact that you go, wait a minute, you're telling me in the next hour I'm going to hear Priest and Ozzy and Megadeth
right,
and Iron Maiden. Just so I'm clear on what we're talking about, you're going to show me all these videos that you don't show any other time of the day.
And as stupid as it sounds, then so you see the record, you see the video, you go buy the record, and communications. I mean, throw the old man voice on like we're in like horse and carriage days. You go see the video, you go buy the record, you go home and find out that the video song is not on the record because that record's not out yet. Or you were just dumbass. You didn't just buy a song for 99 cents. You just bought a $11.99 record.
Right.
So you put it on and you listen for the record and you're like, well, where's my song? And
where's that song? Yeah.
And you find out like, oh, crap. So maybe you shelve that and then maybe go out and buy the next one and then find out that that's the song. So you listen to that record and you're like, that band rocks. Oh, wait, I have that other record, too. Right. I got two records.
So, and then you get the opposite, which there was a guy at our school that, I don't want to mention names because it's kind of a diss in a way, but he'd walk up to me because I was the metalhead at school. I mean, my graduating class is 41 kids, so there wasn't many metalheads in my school. And this guy walked up and said, "Hey man, I got that new Judas Priest album." I was like, "Oh yeah, what do you think about it?" "Well, I don't know. I just listened to the one song they've been showing on MTV all the time." I'm like, "Well, if you like one song, you're probably going to like another. Why buy the whole thing if you're only going to listen to one song?"
Right.
So I always hated that because, again, I look at an album as a collection of songs that is a period in this band's growth or experience, whatever they got going on. And that's the lightning in the bottle. I mean, it's not always about every song being a top 10 hit. It's about how the album works together. 1984, Van Halen, to me, is the perfect Van Halen record because it ties together the greatness of Eddie Van Halen moving forward to some new ideas, even though it was forcing the band to break up because Dave is so full of himself, you know. But it created a great album. And, you know, I know a lot of people like the earlier stuff, but there's something about 1984. It's almost like it put the stamp on that year. We made an album called 1984, and this is everything 1984 is. With the keyboards and the...
I could disagree with you about Eddie Van Halen and Dave. Not because I'm not the biggest Van Halen fan, but I could tell you it is because Eddie Van Halen has been in charge.
Well, we found that out later on for sure.
Of every half second of everything that band has ever done. So anything Dave did when he was getting like strapped up and flown around on stage, it wasn't his idea. Eddie was like, "Dude, fly around on stage while I'm playing guitar would be awesome." And Dave did, and he landed, and then Eddie was pissed because Dave got more screen time.
Yeah,
and like,
well,
that's
I will
Van
say
Halen
this.
Has always been like.
I will say this: David Lee Roth made my favorite music videos, hands down. I mean, Just a Gigolo, Summertime Girls, Yankee Rose. Those are some of my favorite videos ever made.
I realize it's Van Halen, but dude, Hot for Teacher.
Hot for Teacher.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, butts, rock.
Yeah, I showed somebody that video the other day. That I guess they'd never seen the video. And they were like, when the teacher came on the screen, they were just like, holy moly. I was like, yeah, welcome to the 80s.
Uh-huh. Well, and I sent you that idea for a show. It's like, we got to talk about the sweethearts. Like, your summer crush, your not summer crush, you're just your carry-on crush. We got to talk about those ladies. Because
we'll get
Heather
that.
Thomas and Michelle Pfeiffer, like, I'm not talking Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. I'm talking Michelle Pfeiffer in Grease 2. Like, dude, I don't know when the last time you saw that movie was.
I'm laughing because I know exactly what you're talking about.
She's so gorgeous.
That's the way I'm with about like 1982, 83 Olivia Newton-John.
Uh-huh. There's so many of them out there where you're just like, okay, pause. What are we looking at here? It's like, is this is game? This matters. And I know so many people from the 90s are like, oh, it's Jennifer Aniston. Dude, you have no idea.
Yeah.
If Jennifer Aniston is your anchor to life, then you need to step back a little bit because there's so much good out there.
Go watch a Whitesnake video, then come back and talk to me.
Dude, I posted the thing about the purple Lamborghini. I am not, like...
It was missing one thing.
I couldn't find a picture of Tawny Containers. Well, she was on a red one in the Whitesnake video. For me, like, I don't remember, like, I couldn't Google it. That's why the picture's so grainy. It was because there was either a music video by a band or on a TV show or something, but there was somebody that had a grape-colored Lamborghini. And I remember I was like 11, 12 years old. So I don't have a license. I don't even have a freestyle bike. I've got a broken skateboard. But there's this mofo who had $500,000 to spend on an Italian sports car, and he chose purple.
Purple.
And I thought, I want to be that guy. Like
The 80s, man.
Like
The 80s.
I want a yellow one, an orange one, or a purple one. I don't
Right.
want a red one. I don't
Something that stands out. Right?
like if I'm gonna drive a Lambo, thing's gonna be screaming at everybody. Like, this guy has a Lambo. It's like purple. Purple's a color for me. Like, I'm good. I could not find that Tawny Katane video of her dancing on.
Yeah.
But that was another one. White Snake. White Snake.
Yeah.
You saw a Lamborghini, a girl, doors and windows and pensive looks, and Coverdale with his big permed hair, like looking serious.
And Rudy Sarzo licking his bass. Oh,
MTV was great.
It's amazing. I mean, Rudy Sarzo's a great bass player, but he's always going to be known as the guy that licks his bass. You know, not Gene Simmons, Rudy Sarzo. That's right, folks. Oh. But yeah, man. I mean, even just the other stuff in the pop world, the video to Top Gun, you know, to Danger Zone, Footloose. I mean, come on, these songs. I mean, these videos are iconic. Dancing on the Ceiling by Lionel Richie. I mean, you see the video, right? It's in your head. You see them.
Everything
the rooms
was
turning.
a video. Like, you had some. Like, you'd go to the high school dance. Like, I don't think I've ever made it to a high school dance, but like I was metalhead punk rock by then. But junior high school dance, you go there and like you'd hear whatever. You had the video in your head, so you'd like sit there and be like, okay, the guy in the video takes a step forward and then stops. It's like you were kind of doing that little dance thing. MTV is something that I had to have
a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. I mean, it really is. And like I said, the only thing you can measure it to would be the way social media is now. It was that big of an impact. And, well, again, I remember my mom taking me to the mall in Jackson, which is about an hour away. And I'm going to Jackson. It's that Jackson he's singing about.
That's that Jackson.
And, yeah. But this is when you bought the 45s back in the day. So you could get 3 45s for, I don't know, $5, whatever. And all 3 that I got were because of videos that I had seen. It was Toto, Africa.
That's not a bad choice.
The Tubes, She's a Beauty. And then Naked Eyes, There's Always Something There to Remind Me.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because of those videos that made me like the songs that I would not have gone and bought those if I wasn't watching the videos on MTV. And it's just amazing the power that had. They knew exactly what they were doing. Of course. They knew what they were doing because it made you buy stuff that you normally wouldn't, you know.
Well, they were choosing bands based on, well, obviously, videos they could make and then pop sensibility because, I don't know.
Well, even products, man. Nobody would have bought a Swatch if it wasn't for MTV. Nobody would have bought BK Knights, British Knights, or LA Gear tennis shoes. Or
have you seen what kind of watch I'm wearing right now?
That old Casio.
Hell yeah, dude. And I'm not unashamed to say that I've got a pair of black Reeboks in the bedroom because you know.
Man, I had the BKs. I was all in there, man. Sure enough.
I would say if you're gonna talk it, you gotta live it. Like I've got Super Friends. I got GI Joes. all of these are gonna be shows. You're gonna be older than me, so one day you're gonna be like, I was 16, you were 11. You're a dork. And you know what the fun part about that is? I'll wear a big old D on my shirt that says dork because at least it's not dick. I don't care.
Well, if I'm looking up where I've got a Kiss Rubik's Cube, a Kiss salt and pepper shaker, I've got a mechanical bank that's R2D2 and C3PO, and then I've got a $6 Million Man lunchbox.
Nice.
That's what's over my head up here. So yeah, I'm a dork as well.
Dude, I got this whole big list of stuff we should talk about. We should make a part 2 of this.
Maybe make a part 2. We can come back to it because it's something I wanted to say going out of this. I don't know if we're ready to kind of wrap up on this one or not.
I think we're about that because I'm getting knocks on the doors and I'm kind of looking over my shoulders.
Well, here's my challenge to, and I'll talk to you later on of whatever this is going to be, but I want to put a challenge out there, the people that are listening to the show. What I want you to do is find your favorite 80s song that you remember seeing the video on MTV, have it playing in the background, turn your phone on or your computer or whatever, and record yourself pantomiming to your favorite part of the song. Doesn't have to be the whole song. And we'll see what gets past the guards at Facebook or whatever. Yeah, just put it on the Facebook page, our Facebook group. So if you're not familiar with our Facebook group, go find You Know What's Awesome. You can just say, hey, I want to be in the group, and you'll be let in, I promise. But post your video of you pantomiming to your favorite 80s song, and the first one that gets through, that gets shown on here, Billy and I will send you something special. We don't know what that is just yet, but he and I will get together, and we'll come up with something special, and we will directly send you something.
I'm totally down. I was going to say, like, I thought you were going to be like, we'll make some kind of music behind it. I was like, I don't know.
No, what we'll do is we'll get together and we'll come up with something special for the first one that gets through. Now, your other ones, if you turn them in, we'll still send you a little something too, but first prize gets something a little special that will be kind of maybe a one-of-a-kind kind of thing. We'll figure it out. It may be a burnt copy of Red Dawn. Who knows? I mean, it could be anything, but
dude, if you
we're going to give you something.
If you don't have a copy of Red Dawn, you should watch it. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's the challenge, folks. Find your favorite song from the 80s that had a cool video. Play it in the background on your speakers, on your phone, or whatever. Record yourself just pantomiming to it. I don't care if you're singing into a hairbrush or if you're actually doing some of the dance moves. We just want to see if you guys are on board, because you never know. You might see me and Billy doing something crazy like that on there too.
I'm starting to get the notices from the children that somebody can't sleep. I don't like it. But hey, man, that was a great part 1 of our MTV episode because, dude, we didn't really. Well, to be fair, if we would have sat down and talked about it, we'd have been like, let's put this off. But now we've got part 1. There's probably like 4 parts of this episode to come because I didn't even get to, like, wait a second. We're not going to talk about it. I'm just going to, like, top line. Dude, we forgot about Kurt Loder. We forgot about Downtown Julie Brown. We forgot about Adam Curry. The hair.
The original Headbangers Ball host.
Martha Quinn, Kennedy, Matt Penfield. We didn't talk about Unplugged. We didn't talk about MTV News. We didn't talk about Alternative Nation. Dude. Right. That's a whole other show, or each one of those things is a show. So
you could almost take like every 2 years and just do a section on just those 2 years of MTV, working your way up into the 2000s. Really,
yeah.
I mean, there's just the music changed every year because of these bands.
We didn't talk about Yo MTV Raps.
Oh
which. I wasn't a big fan of hip-hop in the 90s, or whatever, but Jesus, I would take it all back if I could just go back and have all that back.
Yeah. Man, I heard Bust a Move today, and I was just like, this song is great, man. You want it, you got it. I mean, it's just like, man, this is great, you know?
Dude, there's so much good stuff to talk about, so... Let's call this one an episode. We will. I will drop as many sound effects into it as I can, and we will talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to You Know What's Awesome.
Good night, you rockers.
Good night.
Around the clock, the music never stops. MTV Music Television.